Hello, everybody. Good morning. How are you
Hello.
today?
Hello.
Everybody, I am Bobby, and today we are doing an episode of Behind the Cards. Let me get situated. My special guest today is Ritchie from Longman. This is an
Hello.
international broadcast. I am in Arizona, United States. And Ritchie, where are you located?
I'm just out in a town called Eastbourne, right on the south coast of England. If you know where London is and drew a line straight down till you hit the coast and the seaside, that's where you'll find me.
That actually helps. I've seen, okay, you're going to laugh at me, but I've seen maps on Doctor Who. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. I can't
Oh,
help
look,
it.
I got the right mug then. Look.
Oh, I think I love you. Marry me.
I'm
Let me
trying
hook.
not to spill my tea by showing you that. Pick the right mug tonight.
Okay, am I up as high as I'm going? Yep, my volume is up as high as it'll go. So, Ritchie, what we're going to do is say hello to everybody. Let's see who we got going on. First one I saw was Madame Maruta from Madame Maru's House of Cards. How you doing, my love? We've got Spirit of Avalon.
Sandra.
And just so you know, this is Ritchie's channel. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay. I found Ritchie as one of my first online broadcasts. He was doing Long Stash
Oh,
with
yeah.
Mr. Gerald. Okay, so we've got Spirit of Avalon. Who else we got? We've got Mad Witch.
Giselle. Hello, my lovely.
We have Free Spirit. Did I forget anybody? If I skipped anybody, I apologize.
Hey, Free Spirit.
We're not going to be taking questions today. This is interview format, and Ritchie has agreed to walk down the Fool's Path with me today. I'm going to be asking questions based on the Fool's journey. Jonathan's here. Where are you?
Hi,
Oh,
Jonathan.
here you are, Jonathan. Okay. So what we're going to do is ask questions one by one. You're going to provide answers. If there's anything that you're uncomfortable with, by all means, just ask me, what's the next question? All right. And just to let everybody know, no, we will not be taking questions today. I will be doing a pop-up later on today for questions, but for now, no. All right. So, Ritchie, I'm not going to ask you to tell us about yourself because I think we're about to find out.
You probably are.
So the first card on our journey today is the Fool. I'm using the Tarot of Dreams just so everybody knows. The Fool. Ritchie, where did your story start? If you had to write a book, where would the beginning be?
I think it starts it sounds like Harry Potter, in a cold library in a schoolroom.
I thought you were going to say in a cupboard under a stairs.
Not quite as sad as that, I'm afraid. I was, and I forget my age, 12, 13, something like that, at my local school. And it was a wet lunchtime. I'd gone into the library basically just to mess around because, you couldn't go outside. Play with and run around and do things. And I went into the library and I saw a book on the shelf which had newly arrived, and it was the Alfred Douglas book on tarot. And I remember seeing it because it had a really bright orange and vivid green cover. And I stopped and I kind of picked it up, put it back, picked it back up again, put it back, and over a space of a few days, I kept doing this. And what was going through my head is, I really want to read this book. I really want to take this book out and read it. But what are my mum and dad going to say if they discover it? Because they were, to my knowledge at that time, they wouldn't have appreciated it. But I did take it out and I started to read it, at night under the covers of the bed.
You dirty boy.
Found the illustrations in it, which was the Sheridan Douglas deck, which I have in my collection, and it fired up my imagination. And that was from the age of 13 and 14.
Can I ask, what was it that grabbed you?
I just was I'm going to be honest, part of it was thinking, okay, so I can predict my future and I can work out who the hell I am and what I can do, and is it all going to be, as wonderful as I think it is. And then it kind of, the picture started to really fascinate me. I knew that it was what I called as naughty. There were cards like the devil in there, and Justice, and the Tower. And in the UK, we had a program. I'm not sure if it had it in the States, but it was called Tales of the Unexpected, and quite a lot of, yeah, you know what I mean. And they was in the opening titles, I think, had the tarot cards from the JJ Swiss going round like a roulette wheel. And I remember kind of comments people would say when watching, "Oh, that's the devil's work." So it was a bit like kind of and that was I suppose the joy of growing up in the 80s, is that there wasn't the internet, there wasn't all the information there was. So literally, if you wanted to find anything out about the tarot, there was about probably 8 or 9 books that you might have heard of. And as a boy, there was absolutely no one to talk to, no internet, no TikTok, nothing. So I was just kind of going off hearsay. And that's where my interest started.
Right. When we start off with tarot, at first we want to be cool. That's the bottom line. And I agree. Oh, I forgot about this. Check this out. Mr. Gerald has had more input on me. I started making little banners.
Look at that. Wonderful.
So, Adventure and Rebellion, would you say you were rebellious doing this? Or
I was possibly one of the most boring youngsters you could possibly find. I was very overweight. I was very spotty. I had greasy hair. I wasn't very good at anything at that point. I discovered I would sit, I would go under the radar of most people at the school. And so part of finding this book and getting a bit of interest was that awakening of, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, a lot of youngsters out there now that, they wait till their time is right. And then suddenly something will just unlock that mind, unlock that spirit, unlock that interest, and you take flight from there.
Would you say that your esoteric journey began at that point and that tarot helped?
It started, but it was quite slow, my journey, I have to say. I mean, my focus was always on the tarot. I was always kind of thinking about whether it was the right thing to do. I was still in the whole mindset of, I could be damned forever doing this. So I took it very, very slowly. And it wasn't till about 5 or 6 years later I went to university and I met up with a couple of other people that read tarot. And that's when it all took off. And then, of course, I became the interesting person in university that could read tarot. And then I could, I would be reading cards with a cigarette in one hand, beer in the other, and the students would be lining up to be my friends. Do you know what I mean? So that's
would it make you laugh to know that I did something similar? Yeah, with a cigarette and a beer. So yes, I understand where you're coming from with that. Now, as far as your family and friends, when did you start telling people, and how did they react?
I remember, and I don't quite know where this comes from. At some point, my aunt was visiting us at our house, and I must have plucked up the courage and gone, "I've got a set of cards, and I can read them." And she made me go and get them. And it was at the time when I was still learning, so it was like a guidebook in one hand and dropping the cards in the other. And my mum kind of was there at the time, and I was, it wasn't anything great. I'm going to be absolutely honest; it wasn't brilliant, but that was kind of the thing that broke the barrier on that one. However, saying that, it wasn't until years later when I started the channel up that I'm much more open. My family know that I do this. My husband has supported me all the time with the channel and doing this. But there are still groups of people that I choose not to tell, and I still get a little bit uncomfortable when somebody goes, "Oh, and you read tarot," sort of adding it onto my list of many exciting traits that happen to me, and I'm a little bit like, "Oh God, what's the reaction going to be on that one there?"
Do you
So
know what I tell people in those situations when I don't want to say what I do? I tell
what's
them
that?
I'm in communications.
I like that.
So when you have an issue and you don't want to deal, no, I work in communications, and then skirt the issue. Now, building up a channel is not easy. I've seen your channel. You do incredibly nice.
Thank
Your
you.
readings are really spot on and stunning. I love it. Your style
Thank
is
you.
great. You're so meek, and your approach is gentle. And I like that because I try not to be, but it ends up kicking you in the teeth and your eyeballs. And I appreciate people who can deliver things with a softer approach.
Mm.
I'm not one of those people. It's just the way it is.
The way it is.
Now, the High Priestess is our next card.
Mm-hmm.
Where's she at? High Priestess in the Tarot of Dreams. Ain't that pretty?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, how would you describe yourself? Tarot card reader, psychic, empath?
Oh, I do know. I wish I knew that answer. I'm a little bit of everything. And when I think that I've kind of got my finger on the pulse, something comes along and changes my whole viewpoint on it. So I'm not psychic. I use divination tools to help people and to observe and perhaps make further decisions on a situation. That's how I look at it.
I love that wording. That was very well worded.
Yeah,
People come to us for a variety of reasons, but almost always they think we're going to have the answers for them. That's not really the situation. We can tell you where to look for the answers.
Yes, exactly. And I think that has something in my practice, but also I think generally we've moved away from, you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger and this is going to happen. That's a thing of the past. Now I think tarot, and there's more people, as the tarot world has exploded with more and more people getting involved in it. And, it's much more about a self-help tool or a tool to help somebody. And it's a bit like, I always say, it's a bit like going into a room which is dark. You don't know perhaps the recesses of other people's minds. And it's like shining a torch around and having a bit of a sort of rummage around and going, here's what you might have been looking for. Does this help? It's a bit like that. I always feel that it's a bit more of a journey that you go on with the person you're reading for as well. I'm not one of these people that's like, don't say anything to me, I'm going to do all my readings. No, I want to know the backstory, and I want to know if I'm completely off mark or am I, going in the right direction.
Yes.
That helps me.
That's one of the reasons I do this channel. I like to know the backstory on everything. I really do like to know how things came about. I don't want, like you say, just surface information. I need to go deeper. I'm not going to tell somebody, oh, you're meeting a tall, dark stranger, just like you said. I'm going to tell them the circumstances in which will best bring that tall, dark stranger into your life.
Exactly. If you want that tall, dark stranger, this is what you need to think about doing with yourself before that person walks into your life. Yeah,
that's right. So next up on our hit parade, we have the Empress.
Oh,
I love this card. Where are you? There you are. The
that's
Empress.
gorgeous, isn't it?
It's a beautiful deck.
Mm.
And I had to replace this deck because it comes with 5 extra cards. location cards, and I didn't want to use them at the time. So I pulled them out of the deck and put them somewhere, lost them. No clue where they went. I had to replace the deck.
Ah,
So we've got the Empress, and the Empress embodies fertility, beauty, and abundance.
mhm.
What would you say um, has been abundant for you or tarot? Well, what does the Empress mean to you? Let's go that route.
I always see the Empress as nature, the Mother Gaia. I always see her as Mother Nature, fertility, growth, artistry, all those wonderful things that we have in our life if we just opened up our eyes and realized they were on our doorstep. I'm lucky that I live by the sea, as I suggested, but I've also got some really beautiful countryside, forests, and big
Oh,
natural
you're
parks
lucky.
around here. Lovely big open skies, and for me, the Empress is about nature. It's about, in many ways, it's for me about weekends. Those lovely weekends, a bit like this weekend, when you go out and just forget about work, forget about the problems of the week or what's going on, and just involve yourself with the trees, gardening, hobbies, the things that actually make you you, rather than all the layers and labels and jobs that pile on you during the week.
All right. Here's a stupid question because we don't have them in my area, but you have foxes out there, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I love foxes. They're a symbol of my deity. I work with Hermes, and
Is it a spirit animal?
it's really
Mm.
love it. There's another bond. I love it. Okay. So the next card we've got is the Emperor. Can you guys see
Lovely.
that? This is authority, structure, and leadership.
Mm.
How hard has it been for you to structure your life with tarot?
Oh, it's for me trying to squeeze everything into it because I'm a school teacher a day to day.
Do tell, really.
So yeah, I teach at a secondary school, so teenagers, and I teach mathematics, and so that has it's one of those things that has taken it, as any job does, it takes over your life. But with teaching, it's never quite switching off at 4 o'clock or whatever. There's always an email, there's always a lesson to plan, there's always something to do. And so it wasn't until I really started this channel, and up to about a year or so ago, trying to fit everything in. There wasn't simply enough hours in the week, and I realized that I have to be give up some things, or at least be very careful with my time on some things, um, to fit in everything that I need to do. So my work, excuse me, I stopped letting it expand into all the time that I would give it, and I structured that down so there was cut-off points. I only tend to do 1 or 2 lives a week. You're very lucky to have me on a weekend.
And I appreciate it.
No, I'm very excited to be doing this one. So, but I can't do a live every evening. I just simply can't do it. And I started doing other bits and pieces. So we started to talk about spiritual paths. I started last year studying the OBOD course for Druidry. Start shoving that in as a couple of hours a week. Start doing the reading that I've also wanted to do, because of course once you start a tarot channel and you meet all these wonderful people like the ones that are chatting today, everyone starts sort of suggesting wonderful things, and you end up going down rabbit holes that you never ever thought you would ever go down. And
How do you
since
think it came about that I learned Thoth Tarot? That's exactly what happened. I went down
yeah,
a rabbit hole.
yeah, but of course all of this takes up time, and what I didn't want to do is kind of stop doing the channel and stop doing my tarot daily practice. Or I should say, I don't do a daily practice now. I tend to do a practice when I have time, and that could be at the weekend. It could be in the morning. It's certainly not every day. Sometimes there's weeks go past when I don't pick up a tarot deck. this the August we just had, I've just had a wonderful 5 weeks holiday, and I think I did one reading over 5 weeks, because I just wanted to go out and enjoy what was there. It does. I don't want I want tarot to be part of my life, but not the be all and end all of it. And there's other
I
things I
get where you're
realize.
coming from. I myself, because I do read professionally, I swim in people's trauma on a daily basis. And there just comes a point sometimes when I have to cut it off and take a few days for myself and not deal with people's traumas. Don't get me wrong. Hold on, what does this say?
Oh, thank you.
There comes a point when I just need to create those boundaries for my own peace of mind and safety, and I don't hold on to readings. So I've had clients come back to me a couple weeks later and say, remember in that reading? No, I don't. Because once you're out of my chair, I have a set of bells that I ring and bing, forgotten. I cannot hold on to your reading.
It's all downloaded and read and done, and the card's been put back again. That's it.
Absolutely. Let's go on to our next card, which is the Hierophant. In this deck, it's called Faith. And I wanted to ask you, how is your religious aspect of your life? Would you say, are you deity, traditional Judeo-Christian, a melange of everything? Eclectic?
All I know is that it's caused. I will say that I'm brought up Church of England, Protestant. Both my mum and my dad were fair weather Christians. We went high days and holidays to church. It was Christmas, Easter, weddings and funerals, and I didn't have to go every Sunday, anything like that at all. Christianity has always been on in the background, running like an app, I suppose. And I suppose that was what caused not so much the biggest problems and headaches from when I was doing tarot, but certainly when I realized I was gay. That was the big problem. That was what I did the fighting over there. That's where the mind went a bit on that one there. And so for a long time, because of that, I just parked religion. I was like, this is just messing with my head. I don't want this. It's not part of me. Now, it's really quite ironic, I suppose, is that in the last 3 or 4 years, since I started Druidry, since I've started tarot, getting back into tarot and doing the channel and everything like that, since I started doing shamanic work, since I started to investigate Celtic gods, and there's done a lot of work on the Welsh gods, and there's a goddess as well, Cerridwen, that I follow. It's suddenly I woke up one morning and went, well, hang on a moment. If I've got a great belief in the Greek pantheon and Cerridwen and the Norse gods and all, and I have an understanding and a huge belief and respect and worship of them, I suppose I have to also accept that there's a Christian God. And so having Christ in my life, I'm more aware of Christ as part of the whole thing than I've ever been in my life, and being more comfortable with that idea and notion. So when people go, oh, tarot and all that stuff will lead you down to the devil, actually, it's kind of done the opposite. It's tied it in with the idea of Christianity, and much closer and much more understanding than I would have possibly done if I hadn't.
Yeah, Maru says pantheist. Yes, we're pantheist. Although Hermes and Hecate are my primary deities, I do truck with other deities as well. Yeah. And at one point in time, as a child, the Judeo-Christian Christ was a part of my life. So I understand what you're saying. On the tree of life, the sixth sphere is called Tiferet. That's the Christ consciousness. So tarot is it's intertwined with it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's always one of those things that's. I had a couple of years ago a bit of a health problem, and there was a few days, a couple of weeks that was really, really scary where I was waiting for tests to come back, and that really tested my what I thought was my spiritual belief. I thought I had it all sorted, and I thought, okay, summer lands, here we come. And then when something like that comes along and rocks your boat, it just goes to show that you still perhaps have to do an awful lot of work on your beliefs. And so that's what I'm very well aware of, is that
my health sucks, and
yeah.
I've been close to death several times over the past 2 decades. And I get that questioning feeling that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our next card up is the Lovers, and on this deck, I love the Lovers. Look at that. Ooh, homeboy, get some. How has tarot meshed in with your relationships?
Well, that's interesting because it's always been, when I was younger, it was always part of me. And so when I had a relationship with somebody, that's what it was. It was always, part of me, but it was always done kind of, I never did it as much as I was doing tarot at the moment there. And then, when I met my husband, Peter, I wasn't reading tarot at the time. I didn't have a channel there. And sort of coming back to it, which is what happened just before the pandemic, it just reignited my interest and my love of it all. And we had conversations about it. And he's now understood a lot more. He doesn't read tarot. He doesn't do any of this spiritual stuff that I do. He has his own spiritual beliefs. But he is also fundamentally the person that drives me and keeps me going on this path with tarot and the channel and everything else I do. He puts up with my nonsense and my silly conversations that I might have. Yeah. And I don't drive, so he drives me quite often. We've had a lovely summer a few years ago where it was my 50th birthday just during the pandemic, and he organised the most wonderful birthday present, which was to go and look at all the stone circles in England. And he drove me down to Avebury and organised a trip to Stonehenge and Cornwall. So he's very caring and knows that that's an important part of my interest, hobbies and beliefs. And so I very much respect that he embraces it, but also wants to keep a little bit of perhaps a distance on it. So yeah, it's finding the right level and making sure that communication's there. So we can talk about stuff. And if there's anything I ever did that he might not be happy with, we talk about it, but hopefully that would never be the case.
Gotcha. I am going to bring up the next card, which is, I don't know why I made it smaller. Hold on. I really don't. Which is the Chariot. On this one, he is an ocean chariot, and I love this thing.
Lovely.
The Chariot is all about determination, control, and willpower. It's an empathetic card. Yeah. It's ruled by Cancer. So where does your empathy lie?
I'm quite an empathic person. My empathy really, it's very difficult because I try not to take on everybody's problems. Yeah, it's very easy to do that one. And that's something that I've learned again in the last few years, is that I am really good at handing out useful advice, but I am absolutely ridiculous at taking my own advice. I am the worst. I mean, you looked at willpower and the word control up there. I have none of those. I have no willpower whatsoever, and control. And just with that, with reading tarot, I'm very empathic when it comes to doing readings. But again, as we kind of talked about, there comes a point, and this is my Taurian bit that kicks in here, because I am a typical Taurian when it comes to my star sign. I will give as much help and as much advice and as much love and as much support as I can, through tarot, through what other means. But when people don't start taking it, or I give out all this advice, particularly these people that come for readings week after week after week with the same questions, I have enough of it. And my Taurian temper suddenly kicks in, and I'm going, enough. I'm not doing this for you, because I've given as much as I can on this one, and it's falling flat. So I have a bit of a slow burning fuse on that one. So has that answered that question? Yeah. I hope it has.
We draw lines with our clients. We have to, because otherwise they will take and take and take and take and take. And when you're reading for somebody, reading every week is just no. If it has to do with the same topic, I'm not seeing you for a while. If it's a different topic, sure, come on in. But it bothers me when they want to try you over and over and over to get the answer they want. It just doesn't work that way.
Exactly. And I mean, I do a lot of readings online. You've seen them. I've done a lot of readings with Gerald and other people, which I absolutely love. And I mean, there's never been anyone that's really taken what I call the Mickey and constantly coming back. But sometimes I get a feeling when I'm doing a reading, perhaps for somebody, it's like, I'm saying this, but I know they're not taking it on board.
Yeah, that's
true.
It's
difficult. It's difficult.
So next up, we've got strength. I love this card because she's got a tiger instead of a lion. Now, the thing about this card is it does embody courage, inner strength, and resilience, but I always viewed that as the lion in the card is showing the strength, because he's not ripping that bitch's face off. No. Okay, so where would you say you've had to apply the most strength and restraint in your life? The strongest moment where you had to be resilient?
Let me just think about that one for a moment. But I'm going to sort of just, on a day-to-day basis as a teacher, to actually have the mental strength and the physical strength of dealing for up to 5 hours a day with a lot of emotions and a lot of raging hormones, is a thing that I've learned that I have to be almost drip feed my mental strength and my courage and my patience in, because it's not just with the students and the actual teaching, it's the bombardment that comes in from management, parent, the whole family of the school. So that's often a thing where my inner strength has to be careful. I have to be careful, and quite often I will have to come home, do a recharge, and I've often found grounding is really good to do that one there. When it comes to actual strength, it's always going to be like the traumatic things that happen in your life. Often members of your family or close friends who have passed over is often the most traumatic, or when you're getting bad news. But I often find in that case, wherever I've had pretty sort of tower moments, let's call them that one there, there's always been a sign, there's always been some symbol or something that gives me the courage to keep going and to seek a new answer. And it could be a feather. And I know a lot of people talk about white feathers, but that happened.
So you work with omens and symbology and harbingers. So
yeah. And I don't go looking for them every day, because I know as how my mind works, I would drive myself absolutely nuts if I did that one. Yeah. But I do pay attention to animals or birds perhaps behaving strangely around near where I am, or something out of what I call out of the ordinary happening, or a sense or a feeling. And that's often the case, is that I've started to realize I need to listen to when something like that's happening. My intuition normally kicks in big time, and it's taken a lot to actually realize that that's what's happening, and to trust it and believe it.
Trusting your intuition.
Yeah.
That's a struggle sometimes. And
Yeah.
Leo is the sign that is associated with the strength card. What do you do for fun?
Well, that's really interesting.
How do you let your hair down?
Well, when I was younger, it was always going to pubs and clubs and doing all that. And then, as you get older, things start to change. I did a degree in film and drama, so I've always loved the arts, and I used to love being involved in the amateur theatre world. I'm not a singer. I can't sing a note at all. I'm absolutely pitch deaf on that one there. But I got involved in the directing side of it all, and I used to love producing the shows and telling everyone where to stand and putting my idea out there onto the stage. That kind of stopped. I then moved on to other things. And I have to be honest with you, for a long period of time, it all kind of went a bit sludgy. I didn't have a huge amount of interest until I got back into perhaps shamanic work, finding new in things that's interest. And I'm not going to say any more than this because I am sworn to secrecy on what's happening. But last week, I've decided to take up a brand new hobby, which I have wanted to do for about 30 years.
What's
and
that?
I actually plucked the courage up to go. I'm not going to tell you what it is because
Okay.
I want to make sure that I'm going to do it. But it's something that has filled me with an awful lot of joy. I'm going to announce it in a few weeks' time once I've kind of just finalized it.
It's okay. I get that. I'm taking up something brand new that people think is totally ridiculous, but I've always wanted to do it.
It's totally ridiculous. I have to say, it's totally
I'm taking up
ridiculous.
poi. Do you know what poi is?
You heard it here first, folks.
I'm taking up poi where you swing the light things around like that because I want to light them on fire and swing them around. Yeah, so by next year, I'm going to be swinging freaking fire, mate.
Well, I tried to do poi once at a festival, and it was
How'd it go?
Oh, I nearly garroted myself. Thank God it wasn't on fire, because I would have really said. I mean, it kind
really
of
would have been in trouble.
There. It was like some kind of cartoon. It was like, no, I nearly had to be cut out.
Yeah, I've watched the videos of people learning, and sometimes they do exactly that. They do.
Yeah.
All right, so the next card up, we have the Hermit.
Ooh, I love the Hermit card.
The Kermit symbolizes introspection, wisdom, and solitude. Now, we talked about those times when you have to pull back from everything. When you do pull back, what do you do?
I love my own company. Absolutely love my own company. Not many people say it, but if it sounds awful, I love being surrounded by my friends, family, husband, but there are times when I don't get my own space that I need to take myself off. I just need to re-find myself, and that comes from when I grew up as a there Jonathan does poi. That comes as a child. Although I had two sisters, they were a lot older than me, so I was kind of always on my own and kind of had my own imaginary world.
Oh, you're the baby.
Oh yeah. Truly spoiled baby. So I got used to my own company. Yes, I had friends, but we also lived quite far out, and it wasn't like you could see them all the time.
Right.
And so I do love my own company, and just as I say, going for a walk, I talk to myself the whole time. It's really crazy. Just talking through ideas, I do that all my time. So when it comes to introspection, this time of year, I used to absolutely loathe the autumn because I'm a sun worshipper, and I love you know, the hot summers here in the UK. And I used to hate winter. But since I got into particularly working with the Wheel of the Year, I really begin to appreciate autumn, and not so much the winter wet weather, but the autumn. And that is the time when the blankets come out and the candles all get lit upon there. And for me, that is my time for quiet reading, catching up, resting.
That does it for you, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Recharging.
And I sometimes wish the winter would be longer, so I actually had more time to do that in. So
I'm a winter person myself, but that's, I think, in part because my grandfather's last name was Frost. And it just always stuck in the back of my head. I'm Frost related. And before Game of Thrones came out, I seriously thought of changing my name to Winter because Edgar Winter, I was really a fan of his music.
Wonderful. Should still do it.
No, because one of my friends, actually a client when I was a nail tech, said, Game of Thrones, huh? And that was it. Pfft, killed the idea for me. So next up, where's my little button thingy? Next up, we have the world. And this is a really good world.
The wheel.
The wheel. Oh,
Sorry.
my God.
I think we haven't got to the world yet, have we? We've gone very fast with it.
I did.
Sorry,
Oh,
the
my
wheel.
gosh. I went down in order. All right. Well, I don't really need that. The wheel. The wheel is about cycles, change. How do you handle change?
Oh gosh, the worst.
The wheel.
The worst. I came to realize, probably on a very long walk, talking to myself at some point, that human beings hate change. We all hate change to some degree or another, and I really, really hate change. Not just in my life, but other people that change their lives as well. That kind of upsets me. So if somebody I know is going to be moving or buying a house, that kind of, I have to deal with that. That makes it. I'm such a, as I said to you, Taurian homemaker, and nothing rocks the boat. So when change comes along, I have to work with it, and I have to. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm rubbish at it, and I do everything I can to stick my head in the sand to avoid it.
The wheel is about expansion. It's ruled by Jupiter. What are you currently trying to build? You said Druidism. What attracted you to that?
So you remember, you said that I said that I had this medical issue of scare a few years ago. One of the things that I realized at my time of crisis was the only way I could remain calm was to go out into nature, into the woods, into the forest, sit with trees. Talking to other people was just no good. That was my go-to safe space. And so I started doing a bit of reading. I read a lot of Glennie Kindred. I don't know if you've heard of Glennie or read any of her work, but she does a lot of work with traditions and shamanism. But there's also a wonderful book called Walking with Trees, and talking about tree energy. So I practiced that, and then I did a bit more reading, and then that naturally then progressed on to the Druid side of it all, which is obviously a natural religion. I'm going to call it that on there. And it was the next progression to actually step into. Also, I am, again, incredibly lucky where I live. I've said this several times, but I live in East Sussex, and we have county towns. So our county town is Lewes, and Lewes is the central organisation for the OBOD, so the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's convenient.
Philip Cargon, who you may have heard of because he writes a lot of stuff. Philip is quite local. Dave the Bard, the musician, is local. He has a group that we meet up every Sabbath just at the Long Man, just down the road from where I am. So I went along and I just kind of, oh my God, yes, this is it. This is my kind of people. That's the phrase that my husband uses whenever he sees somebody out. They're one of your kind of people, kind of says. Yeah, and I just suddenly I found my place. I just fitted straight in.
Do you know what helped my husband understand when we've been married 25 years, we've been together 25 years. Do you know what helped him understand what kind of person I was? I took him to a Renaissance fair, and, and he met everybody there. And it happened to be that all of my friends worked at the Renaissance fair. So it gave him a better insight onto my world. It was a blast.
That's so cool.
Let's go on to the next card. We have justice. Yes, I'm double checking justice. Okay, signifies fairness and balance. This card here is cool because her body is actually the scale. What upsets you? What upsets your apple cart?
Oh, right. Oh, the long list. Firstly, let's talk about abuse of the world, nature, people, all that kind of stuff. And it's, again, interesting that I used to be, I'm still into crystals. I love my crystals, working with crystals, just handling them, often wearing them. And then I had was getting quite a big collection of it. And then I started to realize that what this was doing to the landscape with the mining, the finding of it. And I really calmed it down now because, yes, you can find people who source crystals ethically, but that's becoming far less and less. And it seems to be that more and more people are getting into crystals for whatever reasons without a sense of what this can do to forestation and animal environment generally. So anything that's environmentally dangerous. Now in the UK, we have a problem where our water system, our water companies are privatized, often owned by people outside the UK, companies outside the UK. And it's been realized in the last couple of years how much money has been siphoned off to shareholders and nothing has gone back to actually the water, the system itself. All the sewers are out of date, and what they have had to do, what they didn't have to do, but the legislation has allowed them to literally flush raw sewage into most of the rivers and the seas around the coast. And so the UK has now got some of the filthiest rivers in Europe and possibly the world. And I mean, every month there's a new story about this, whilst the people on the board of these water boards just getting huge profits and taking personal bonuses. And
would you say that your sense of balance and fairness is, how do I word this, has your studies in druidism and shamanism made you lean more obviously towards, has it changed your frame of mind? Were you this way before?
Yeah, I would just always just do whatever I wanted. If somebody was going to be vegetarian or vegan, let them. But now I'm much more interested in. It's woken up my sense of look further into this. Don't believe everything that you see here. Search deeper, read deeper, and find the truth in it, and do what you can to whatever you can to try and turn back what you don't believe in or you believe is damaging your world.
Yeah, I'm lucky. We have a store near me, like within walking distance. They do source ethically, and he takes great pride in pointing out certain stones that are man-made. And oh no, you're wearing a man-made stone. I didn't know most of this stuff before I started going to that store, so I really appreciate him. taking care of our planet, that's where you find your balance then.
Yes. And it can come from just picking up rubbish on the streets when you go out for a walk, picking up. And for me, that is honoring the nature spirits, the ancestors of the land, much more than leaving, burning incense or saying prayers or.
Well, here in the States, I don't know if you've seen these commercials over there, but we had a commercial with a man named Chief Iron Eyes Cody.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a kid, it would show this native. Let me put my phone on vibrate. Oh my gosh. It would show this Native American gentleman crying, looking out over the landscape just filled with trash.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's become an American thing, seeing that commercial, picking up your trash.
Yeah.
Oh, Ange is here. Hi, Ange.
Hi,
Ange. Okay. So next up, my friend, we have the Hanged Man. There he is. I knew he was in here. So the Hanged Man symbolizes surrender, perspective, and sacrifice. Have you had to sacrifice much in your life? And for what cause?
I don't think I have. I think I've been very lucky that I have never had to give up something for a cause or for that. However, I am quite aware of things having a natural cycle that therefore finishes. So, for example, if a friendship peters out, or if a contact or an interest stops, I don't go back and try and forcibly get it back. So although I'm not giving stuff up, I'm also aware of a natural finish in some things. So
sounds to me like you're aware of your own personal importance and strength.
I'd hope so. But that's a lesson again that I've just learned over the years. I can't think of anything I've actually had to sacrifice or give up like that, which actually the only thing I have is things that have been really bad habits, which I'm pleased that I did after 30 odd years and stuff like that.
This card is also associated with Neptune, the planet of dreams and illusions. What are your big dreams? If you could rub a magic lamp, what would you like to see happen?
I would love to live in a little woodland area with like a nice log cabin with a natural and not have solar panels and things that could mean that I'm giving stuff back. I wouldn't have to be taking stuff, compostable toilets. I would just like to live very low key. This sounds really awful, but if I had a dream like that, I think I would have to be very careful with communication and the internet and social media, because social media, I think, is probably, as we are on social media, I actually think it is the curse of the 21st century.
Yeah, I think certain aspects of social media.
Yeah, I know that it's also very useful, but I think we're only beginning to wake up to the harm and the damage that it's doing to some people and to society. So to kind of have a life which meant that I was devoid of that one, still be able to communicate with people, still see friends, family regularly, but just to have live out a quieter life, I think, and still work, but perhaps not have to depend on working to make ends meet and to make a life. I'd like to be able to volunteer to do stuff, knowing that
I love volunteering, and people can't understand why I enjoy being part of the community so much and helping out. Mainly because I took so much growing up and I caused so much damage that now I'm trying to give back to the world and trying to just fix the balance there. All right, so let's move on to our next card. We've got the Death card, which in this deck is really pretty. Look at
Wonderful. But Death Card's one of my favourite cards.
Why?
A bit like we said earlier, everything needs to come to an end. And we're frightened of letting go, usually very frightened of letting go. So most of us are very bad at letting go of stuff. And so when the Death card pops up, it's almost a permission to give to do that, to realize that you are something is due to finish. Don't hang on to it. It's time to bury it, wipe the slate clean, and start again. My other favorite card is the Tower card, but we'll come on to that bit in a moment.
Yeah, we're about to hit the Tower card shortly. Don't. The Death card is a complicated card. A friend of mine, we've been doing a series on the 78 cards, and we just finished the majors. With the Death card, it has that aspect of endings, but because of Scorpio, it has that aspect of caring, which has always confused me. It's a protective, yet in my mind, this change is necessary for further development for individuals. And like you say, this card is tied in with the Tower card, and we'll get to that shortly. In fact, let's just move on with it right now. So our next card up is Temperance. Temperance is fastly becoming one of my favorite cards. And I chose this deck for this card today because I've been doing that series with Joey on the cards, and she balances me where I'm male and dark. She's female and light, and it's just a great thing we've been doing. It's alchemy. We're taking two things and mixing them together.
Yeah.
What brings you harmony? We talked about balance. Now I want to talk about harmony.
Music. Now, having said that, I don't sing, and I certainly just about can bang a shamanic drum, if I'm brutally honest, and often that isn't the rhythm that I can't even clap in rhythm. I'm really that bad.
You can't be that bad. Come on, mate.
Oh, I can. I can clap out a time to a whole group of people. So if you're in a theatre and you're clapping, I'll be the one that's you can hear clapping off, with everyone.
I was a karaoke host for a long time. I'm familiar with the offbeat clap. Yes.
That's me. But I do harmony. I think music, the arts generally, but music for me is something that brings harmonious joy into my life. I have the most eclectic taste in music of anyone that I know. I can go from
What are your top three?
Sorry?
What are your top three? Your top three songs. Let's do with that.
Oh, well, at the moment, it would probably be something like a Steel Eye Span, which is a folk group from the 70s and 80s. So one of their folk songs there. And then we would have I can't remember which country it was, but something from the Eurovision this year called We Will Rave. That's on there. And then I'll have some heavy rock, something like Ailstorm or Abney Park, steampunk kind of stuff.
I've seen Eurovision twice.
Joy.
Once a lady was acting like a chicken on stage.
Netta, she won.
I know. I love that one. That was one of the best performances. I sent it to everybody I ever met. And the other reason I watched was Bonnie Tyler. I've been a Bonnie Tyler fan.
Oh, you're a Bonnie Tyler fan.
Yeah, I've always been a Bonnie Tyler fan. One of my favorite memories is driving through a lightning storm, just going crazy, holding out for a hero in my Mustang really loud. It was awesome.
Oh gosh, I wish I'd been there. You would have sung along loudly.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
All right. So you ready for some difficulty here?
Go for it. I'm waiting.
The Devil card. The Devil card is all about temptation, materialism and control. I have a couple questions. One, has anybody ever tried to control you?
Yes, and in several ways. I've had long ago a relationship which I didn't realize was as controlling as it was, and without going into the details of it, because that one's certainly in the past. It was a very strange relationship, in the fact that I thought we were level playing field quite early on in the relationship, but it took 10 years to realize that that was not the case, and they were basically rewarding through food, through alcohol, to keep in the relationship. So actually really twisted and played with my emotional and physical side of my life to do that. And it's really difficult to break that. I'm pleased I did, but it took a very long time, and probably one of the hardest parts of my life, actually, because I regret it. It was during when I was in my 30s and 40s, which would have been the best part of my life in many ways. However, I'm also a great person, believing that put me in a place where I can now enjoy this part of my life and appreciate it all the more.
Excellent. Being controlled by somebody is a difficult situation. I was in a really bad relationship 30 years ago. It was very abusive. There's a tattoo on my back of his name, just so that if I ever cheated, people would know who I belonged to. Yeah, I used to date big bad boys. But have you ever been addicted to anything yourself? Have you ever had trouble breaking away from something besides that?
I've always had an addiction to food. I've changed shape, body size many times. I've tried to diet. Again, I'm one of those people that when I get interested or get into something, I throw myself into it 100%. So that could be dieting or exercise, and it can be the opposite of that, which is to not diet and not exercise and find the joy of the refrigerator contents.
I learned to bake muffins.
Yeah, I was quite a heavy smoker, which I'm fortunate 7 years ago I stopped doing. That was the thing that brought me the deepest joy. So that was a real hard thing to do. But actually giving up wasn't that difficult, and I don't even think about smoking anymore. Yeah. I go through phases of buying lots of stuff, lots of shit that I don't need. And then I go tarot decks sometimes. And then I go through a phase of chucking them all out or getting rid of them all.
Yeah. My husband got on my case because I buy so many tarot decks. But now the gods have gotten on my case too about it. So recently I've been pulling the Four of Pentacles. Thank you, baby doll. I've been pulling the Four of Pentacles, which is telling me hold on to my finances. Cut with the deck shit.
I dread to think. I mean, some of them are in these. That's the main collection in those four things. Are packed to the rafters. There's still actually no, because there's shelves in other rooms full of tarot decks, some of which have never been opened for years.
I have about 60 decks. I don't have as many as you have, but I've got obviously more than I need. I've started buying decks and they're just not vibing with me, and I'm like, I guess I've already got the ones I need.
That's the thing, isn't it? And during lockdown, the materialism, the reward part of it was what kept a lot of people going. And
I think people were trying to find a way to ground themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I totally get that. And I still go into thrift stores, charity shops, and go, do I need to buy that? And I have to do I have to go away and have a conversation with myself. And I always think if I'm still thinking about it 24 hours later, then I'll go and buy it.
Yeah. I do like making gifts of the tarot decks that I don't use. But sometimes they don't vibe with the people I give them to. And I'm like, yeah, just give them back, or
Yeah.
send it to somebody else. But
I need to get rid of loads. And I've been saying this for years, but I need to set up on, I've got my Facebook page for my
you should
channel.
do an online auction.
I'm going to do that because I've been taught. There's a box there of just stuff that it's just sitting there. I will.
That would be awesome. I'd buy a deck if you did the online auction. All right, so the next card we have the most beautiful card in this deck. It's the Tower. Okay. Now the Tower represents upheaval, sudden change, and revelation, sudden insight. What was your most significant Tower moment? We were talking about Tower moments a few cards back. And for those who don't know who are watching, a Tower moment is when you suddenly realize, oh shit, or holy crap. It's just sudden, like a bolt of lightning.
Yeah. I think for me, coming out to my parents was the big one. That was the one. I knew it was coming. I've been working on it. No, I've been working on it. I've been trying to ignore it for years and years and years. So coming out to my parents as gay was always going to be, in my mind, difficult. It wasn't as difficult as all of that, but it happened. It didn't happen in a way that, as shown on sitcoms where you might sit down and go, Mum, Dad, I'm gay. Oh, no, it didn't happen because somebody, I was kind of out to some of my friends and somebody's sister said something to a brother-in-law who was a taxi driver, and it all got reported back and it all happened. And it also happened just as I was starting up a relationship properly for the first time, and that person cheated on me. So my whole world fell apart in the space of 48 hours. So that was a real Tower moment.
May I ask your age, Ritchie?
At that time, I was, hang on a moment, where was I? About 22. I was quite late. But then I think, I was born in 71. So growing up in the 80s, I think people...
2 years younger than me.
Well, back in those days, in the UK, it wasn't as... it wasn't like on the programs, the TV stuff. It wasn't around the whole time, so it seemed like quite a big event. And it is still a big event.
It was a big event. It was our generation that normalized this lifestyle, that telling people it's okay to be who you are.
And the news and the way the world was going, it was when HIV was just coming out as well. The UK the government at the time had just passed a clause which basically started to called Section 22, Clause 22, which meant that you couldn't talk about being gay in certain scenarios in an education. It was still very much frowned upon, and so
we had don't ask, don't tell. With the
a bit
military.
like that, yeah.
And that's why I had actually joined the Navy when I was 17.
Yeah.
And before I finished, for two reasons. They canceled my contract. Number one, I was 1 credit shy. At that time, you needed a certain amount of high school credits. I was 1 credit shy. And the other reason is they found out I was gay. So I think they used the 1 credit.
Yeah.
That was my own fault. I never should have slept with the guy I was in the delayed entry program with. But let's go on to the next one. Totally worth it, though. The star. The star signifies hope, inspiration, and renewal.
Mm-hmm.
What brings you hope?
That's a very good question, because I'm probably thinking, what do I have any hope? And of course I do have. Perhaps hopeless is probably. I have to say, working with young people always actually gives me hope, because having talked all earlier about social media and all of that side of it all, and some of the things that are happening in the world at the moment, um, working with young people brings me absolute hope that we are going in the right direction, slowly, difficultly, um, with a lot of problems along the way. But young people are, I know they are our future, but I think the ones that I've worked with, at least, are really got their heads on the right way. They've really got their fingers on the pulse. They really are given a hard time, and I have absolute faith that when their time comes, they will probably be looking after the world and everything in a better way than my generation ever did.
I certainly hope they do better than our generation. Well, you know what? I can't slam our generation too much
No.
because we laid groundwork that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
I don't know about the UK, but here in the United States, our generation is called the fuck around and find out generation because we are the latchkey kids.
Mm.
In our generation.
Mm.
That's when the children pretty much raise themselves from 7 years up. It's the fuck around and find out generation. We just don't care. You don't mess with a Gen X person. They just don't care. They will tear you down. But I try to bring hope to people.
Yeah. I also have absolute hope, having talked about the desolation of the planet and environmental issues. I absolutely know that the planet will be all right. It's not going to explode into a sort of fire and brimstone thing. And I think the evidence from that was in the pandemic, when, planes stopped flying and the holes in the ozone cleared themselves up within 3 months. And, yeah,
I have a theory that was kind of planned. This is one of my conspiracy theories, is that in order to save the ozone layer, the general public wouldn't have gone along with the stop fly, so it was set in motion. That's a conspiracy theory dream I had at one point, and I was like, well, that's weird. All right, so let's move on to the moon.
Okay.
The moon represents illusions, the dreams, and the subconscious. What's always in the back of your head?
Oh. I think what's always running in the back of my head is, how can I make this situation, this conversation, whatever situation, better?
I thought you were talking about this conversation. I was like, I'm
no. But so if I'm having at work a conversation, what do I need to do to make this better? If it's a reading, how do I get this reading across that actually is purposeful and useful? What what can I do? As I said, picking up rubbish. What can I do? What's my next stage to make my life and the life of other people better? And I'm not talking about, massive, huge things and massive life changes, but it's always just running there. And it's, again, the small acts of kindness. It's holding the door open for somebody. It's taking time and not, not muttering under your breath, "I'll walk faster, why are you in my way?" That kind of thing. It's just having that more generous, because we're all incredibly busy people, but actually what we can do, regardless of how much money or where we live, we can give people time. That is a resource that it's free to everybody to use. And we don't do that. I don't do that. And I'm sure a lot of people possibly could give more time freely if they just thought about using it wisely.
Truly wanted to and gave it. Yeah.
Mm.
So here's an off-topic question that is on topic, believe it or not. The Hebrew letter associated with the moon is called Qoph, Qoph, right? It means back of the head. When I'm doing readings, my spirit guides, I can feel a physical sensation of them touching the back of my head. Do you ever get any sensations during your readings?
No, but I get energies. I can see whenever I'm about to do a reading or something like that, I will see, I'm not going to say an orb, but it's an energy. And it's quite often here. And there's many videos I've been sitting here and there's something gone past my face, an orb has been floating around in here as well. So much so that it used to terrify me. Now I'm just very cool about it all and welcome that energy. And as long as it's positive and going to be helpful, and if it's negative, it has to go. But yeah, and when I'm doing a reading, so quite often we're doing fast readings online. I'll be there, I'll be doing it all there. And then something in my brain will switch on and I can feel it's coming in through here. And then I get a doubt. And that's when I go slightly off topic and it's that bit where going from just reading about, oh, you need to be, look after your emotions to, are you having trouble at work? And that kind of bit more immediate kind of questions that you wouldn't normally ask straight away. That intuition, that reaction. I'm downloading something from somewhere, and that's when I get a warm, which is around the third eye. So that's where that comes in.
Right. I encourage people to explore those feelings when they get them, because it may be a power leap that they're not aware of. Say a new reader is like, every time I do readings, I keep getting a sensation on my shoulder. Explore that. It may be your spirit guide trying to and explore it safely. If being a witch, I'm always like, cast a circle, protect yourself. Grab the salt.
Yeah. Grab that word.
Exactly.
But actually, that's a very good point, is that, and something I always forget to do after a reading, I might leap up to go to the loo or go to the toilet, wash my hands. And what I forget to do is close that space down. So I'm pretty bad at doing that. I get super excited with the actual process, but I need to be better at the closing and the grounding.
Right. I wear, during my broadcasts and my tarot shows, a giant obsidian, like Gerald wears tiger's eye. And this is not only to ground me, but to remind me that I'm delivering messages. It's a messenger rod in my mind, like Hermes and Iris use in Greek mythology. I'm very entangled with the Greek pantheon, as most Hispanics are, as you know. Let's go on to our next card, which is the Sun. This is the embodiment of joy, success, and vitality. What would you say is your biggest success in life?
My biggest success is, it depends, actually. I'm going to be, let's go back. Categorically, my biggest success is meeting my husband, Peter, marrying him, and hopefully living a successful life, a happy life with him. That's what I'm going to say there. However, a few years ago, when my mental health plummeted through the floor, my success was to actually get out of bed.
That's a good goal, believe it or not. I do suffer depression, and I get those days when you're struggling and fighting yourself.
Yeah.
But so I don't know about you. Do you give yourself those days and just say, fuck it, I'm just going to stay in bed?
No, I don't. I'm dreadful at being in bed. Even at the weekends, I'm like, if I wake up at 7 o'clock, I'm out. I've never been good at staying in bed. And anyone that eats in bed, like has breakfast in bed, no, I can't do that. So I'm a person that gets, so the times when I have been exhausted, and that is usually in the past because of mental health or
Right.
other things going on, that is when I know I am not well, because I have to go and sleep. And that's what I choose to reflect that. So, we always think of success as having money and all the fine things and cars and houses and that. Success is often being happy in your life, happy in your job, happy in where you are. And that is where I am at the moment. And I'm hoping if Peter was watching this, he'd agree. But just having the joy, finding the joy in life. You put joy up here as one of the titles there. And having gone through that, having had those darker times when joy is not in your life, when it does, I recognize that, and I do not. I'm thankful for it at all times. And one of the things I do before I go to sleep is give gratitude for everything that's happened. I list the things that happened during the day, and I say thank you for them.
Okay, two things. Maru wears blue chalcedony. I showed this because I'm about to purchase the chalcedony today, so it's really neat. I take that as a sign. And then Jonathan says he's watching it while sitting in bed.
Well, I hope you're not eating or drinking, Jonathan, because that would really upset me.
There's days like if I've done a psychic event or I've done 14 readings in a day, I'm spending the next day in bed. I can't get out. I don't want to get out. Don't try to get me out. And I will eat in bed while I watch my RuPaul Drag Race.
I'm not judging you.
My favorite guilty pleasure. But for the most part, your body starts to hurt. You have to get out of bed. You have to do things. If you give in every day to that, it's not good. But every now and then.
I'm far too fidgety as well, so I would wake everybody up.
Oh, no. I've got 5 dogs and 2 cats. They're going to wake me up regardless. That's not an issue. Let's go on to the next one. We've got Judgment card.
Yeah.
Where are you, Judgment? You can't really see this one. It's very Chris Butler looking, with images being drawn up into heaven. And for those of you who don't know Chris Butler's decks, go check out the Healing Light Tarot, Healing Light Lenormand. They're my favorite decks. Have you faced judgment?
Probably. I mean, when you say that, I've never been in a situation where I would go, a particular decision has been ruled in that kind of way that has involved me.
Uh-huh.
But are people judging me? Then yes. I on a day-to-day basis, I'm very, I suppose part of the, as we talked about earlier, growing up in the 80s, being gay, I was very, very conscious of not being over the top gay. Very careful on how I talk, very careful of hand mannerisms, all of that. I was very, very careful on that one there. So I'm always in the back of my mind, again, we've talked about things in the back of my mind, careful on how I hold myself, how I present myself, so that I don't give away too many clues to people. Not necessarily to my close friends, but if I was talking to a group of people or something like that, I come across as pretty, I try and neutralize myself, as in not get, he says with a massive great moustache on his face. I try not
I'm blending in.
Exactly, yeah. But I'm very, very cautious of the way that I would talk. So the way we're talking now, or the way I talk to my friends, is very different to if I'm having to address a room of people or people I don't know, particularly adults. I hate talking to a group of adults.
I'm going to touch on this. It has very little to do with what we're talking about, but it came into my mind. We did have somebody here in the States. I don't know how much it affected the UK, but his name was Matthew Shepard. And he was beat to death and tied to a signpost just for being gay.
Hear about that, yeah.
And yeah, and this was, 25, 30 years ago. But it was so shocking. And then with, oh gosh, what was that little kid's name? The one that got bombed out of his house for having HIV. It's difficult. My husband's letting the dogs out. That's why my screen went white. Forgive me. What is his name? It's bothering me. Does anybody remember the name of the kid? Bobby somebody. Anyway, judgment has been something. I understand that feeling that you have to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
And for a long time, Ryan White. Thank you, Violet. That is true. Ryan White, he was bombed out of his house. And I don't know why I was having such trouble remembering that. I'm part of the Ryan White program here in the United States. But because of my health status and because of my sexuality and because of my religion, for a long time, I flew under the radar trying to avoid judgment. And there just came a point when I didn't give a fuck anymore. And it was a struggle to regulate my life with the world around me.
Yeah.
But I just stopped trying. So you realize what this means is that we're up to our last card. And this one is the world. Okay. I'm going to have to go back and change that. This is completion, achievement, and fulfillment. The Hebrew letter for this is Tav, meaning mark or step. Let's see. The astrology of this is Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you had to say you had a goal, what would it be?
My goal is, I suppose it's something that's been playing away in the back of my mind for the last couple of years now, is that I am now facing that phase in my life where in 10, 15 years time, retirement. Okay. I don't have the best pension. I paid into it quite late. So I'm very conscious now of I've got to start setting myself into that mindset of getting ready for that next phase of life. Now, that sounds a bit like crazy, like that's 15 years away, but 15 years
that's planning
away so quickly. It's particularly as you get older, isn't it? It'll be like in 3 weeks' time if I don't start doing some work on it. But yeah, my goal is to make sure that I and Peter are comfortable enough to actually take that retirement. And I have a few friends slightly older who are thinking of retiring or in that process of retiring. And for them, the biggest question and fear was, have I got enough to live on? Do I do another year? Can I take early retirement, or do I go part-time? And I don't want to be in that situation, because I know what will happen. I'll just keep going until I'm 85 and then drop dead. So I want to really make, hopefully 85 and not before that. I'd like to think a little bit after that, but never mind. But I just want to make sure that for somebody who's kind of through my life, I've kind of happily got into the right place at the right time, dealt with the ways that life has treated me. At the moment, hopefully it's coming across, I'm doing okay. I want to be prepared that the next bit is properly planned for. I can't keep drifting into retirement. I have to think about, is that cabin in the woods likely to, ever happen? What do we do next? Do I work till I retire, or do I finish retirement early? You know, that kind of thing. So that is my long-term goal. My short-term goal is to actually finish my first stage of my OBOD and become a bard. That's the thing. The course that I'm on is done online, and it can take as long as it needs to. And I'm certainly not in a rush because I'm enjoying it that much. But there's certainly weeks that go by that, oh, I haven't done anything on that. I do actually need to, at some point, complete this. So I would like to get into a stage where I feel I've done the qualification, and I need that qualification to actually step into that role and own it, and feel like I have the qualification behind me to actually be that person.
How would you sum yourself up? If you, this is a difficult question because what I'm asking you to do is sum up the last 5 decades of your life.
Oh gosh.
If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
Funny, because I make myself laugh. Effervescent, so I'm a bit bubbly, a bit like one of them vitamin pills that you pop in the morning and it all bubbles up. I'm a little bit like that.
Okay.
Dependable. I'm going to put dependable in there as well, because I actually think if somebody tells me something, I will, you know, keep it. And as I said, I've started something exciting, and I'm not going to tell anyone. Even, you know, you could, you know, give me $100.
It's killing me. I want to know what it is. I'm just letting you know that was a really messed up thing for you to do.
Yeah, that's the kind of, yeah. And I think those are all positive traits, and I'm proud of that.
Okay, what was the one transformative moment for you?
Oh, there's so many, but little ones. One of them was when I lost my mother when I was 30. I lost my dad, where are we, 5-6 years ago, or probably a little bit less now, 4 years ago. It was the realization that that generation had now gone, and myself and my sisters have now stepped up that generation. And I realized, yeah,
for the younger kids watching in your 20s and 30s, you're going to feel this too. Richie's gone through it. I've gone through it. Everyone in our generation.
You kind of go, oh, I'm an orphan, and you go, actually, you're 55 or 50 at the time. It's not as bad. It is as bad as it is, but you make your own. When your parents are no longer around for whatever reasons, you have to make the decisions, and you can make the right decisions, you can make the wrong decisions, as long as you learn from them. So yeah, I forgot the question now, but yeah, that was
transformative moment.
That was one. Transformative moment tarot wise, I'm going to go back to the tarot. I can't remember, but there was I did a reading for someone, and it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I never go looking for clarification on it. I always go, well, that's my reading, you take with it what you will, let me know anything. And it was that moment where you suddenly go, yeah, I got this. I finally think I may have cracked this one. I don't need to worry about necessarily reading the guidebooks and having a guidebook in one hand, and I've got my own systems that work, so I don't bother cleansing decks, and and all that stuff, all the little things that you do perhaps for a reading or whatever for a belief system, suddenly goes, yeah, actually this shit works. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, hallelujah, because I thought I was beginning to bark up the wrong tree on this one there. So those little moments in life when, or your practice or something, whatever it is you're doing, it just suddenly clicks in, and you can do it automatically without having to think too much about it.
That is a comfortable feeling. I'm not gonna lie. The first time I was doing a reading and didn't sweat
Mm,
through the reading, I finished. I was like, wow, that was pretty damn good. Because when I was young, was sweating like a mofo through every reading, and then there just came a point in time when I didn't, and I'm comfortable, and I love it. So, we're about to end this because we've been an hour and a half in. Before
right.
we end it, does anybody have a question for Ritchie?
Happy to take questions.
Right. Because if not, we'll give it a few minutes.
I'm going to give people a moment because you didn't ask me the question that I thought you were going to ask me.
Oh, do tell. Which question?
And that is, and you might even know the answer to it, which is why I haven't asked it, is why have I called my channel Long Man Tarot? Because that actually sounds a little
I
bit
thought
like
that was your last name.
No, no.
No.
Because no, no.
Okay. Well,
And
I'm
it's not because
totally
it's like
lost.
an OnlyFans site or something like that, So
Okay, I need to ask. Ritchie, why do you call your channel Long Man Tarot?
Bobby, thank you for asking.
Very good at this. I'm very thorough.
So when I was thinking up a channel name, I went through all the mystic woo tarot and all that kind of stuff. And I apologize if anyone has got a channel called Mystic Woo Woo. But I went through all of that thing and I thought, no, it doesn't really fit. And then I remembered that just outside of where I live on the beautiful hillside is a chalk figure that's called the Long Man of Wilmington. And
I know the figure, yes, with the big pee-pee.
That one from the
Yeah.
Jimmy Card. And that one literally is a chalk figure. I think it's the second biggest chalk figure or carving in the landscape in the world. And he's always been with me. He is been on my school badge when I was at secondary school. We always used to drive past him if you're going on holiday and stuff. And so he's like my kind of guardian. He's like the person that opens the doorway because that's what I think he's doing.
Okay, wait, is that the old man of CERN?
No, you're thinking of the CERN Abyss, the mum with the big.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
No, he hasn't got any bits to him at all. He's just got two long poles. But again, and I mean this. So I decided to call myself Long Man after the Long Man of Wilmington. So that's why. But again, this is what the universe does. I talked earlier about the Druid group that I belong to, and we all meet under the chalk figure, just literally.
Oh, that is fantastic.
This tree doesn't actually exist in real life. I'm sorry to pop it. It's actually a car park, but it's a very nice car park with a picnic area, and that's where we meet. And so again, it's that calling, it's that connection.
Perfect. Now I know why your channel is called. Jonathan would like to know, such a great conversation, guys. What's your favorite divination system other than tarot?
Lenormand.
Lenormand. I have to say Lenormand because
Lenormand. Now I was wise enough, silly enough, stupid enough, clever enough, whatever, to make my own Lenormand deck up, which I did on making playing cards a couple of summers ago as a bit of a project, because I absolutely love the Lenormand deck. And I'm sure everybody's sick of me banding this one around, but I set it up as a bit of a project of photos that I took whilst away on holiday. And I just happen to have a copy of it here, as you do. And so a bit like, again, you know how people would, back in the 70s, go on holiday and take slides and invite their neighbours round for a slideshow once I don't know if they did that. I did that in the UK.
Yeah.
God knows what happened afterwards, after the wine had been flowing, but But this was a kind of like, I take all these photos from my holidays and I never look at them. And so I set myself a challenge of actually creating my own Lenormand deck.
I like it. I'm liking it.
So,
And this is not published?
it is. It's on making playing cards. You can. It's called the Summer Lenormand. I'll show you a thing. If you go onto my YouTube account, there's a whole video which I made with Chris Butler.
Maru, can you put his information up for me, please? I know you're quick on the draw.
Yeah.
Chris has had a hand in everybody, apparently.
Well, I don't think he actually features in this, but it was the summer that we were making. Peter and I were kind of filming it. That's what the main card looked like, with a great seagull on there. And I actually met Chris. We arranged to meet up, and I went and stayed with him for a night there. And he lovely. We had lots to drink, and he made a nice dinner. And we've been friends, for ages. So, but he gave me a lot of advice on how to get this onto making playing cards. But I absolutely love the Lenormand, and in many ways, it's difficult to do Lenormand readings on YouTube or through social media because you need much more space to do it on. But I would love to run a Lenormand course, because for me, reading Lenormand is so much easier than tarot.
Why don't you? Because I am having trouble with my combinations when it comes to Lenormand. Single card draws, I'm fine, but the combinations. Chris said he'd work with me, but life is happening for everybody. Oh, she even put mine up. How nice.
And if anyone's interested, it's available off making playing cards. You can either have it in a little box, which is cheaper, or you can get it in a tin. And it's all going to charity, because I don't want to make any money out of it. So it goes to the Wildlife Trust, I believe, and the trees. So we talked about the trees and how important they were for me. So it's going to the Woodland Trust, which is a charity in the UK.
Elspeth said no therapy or counseling with Lenormand. That is true. It is.
Tells you that it is, and that's what you need sometimes. Some blunt answers to life's problems. The fluff, not the fluffiness, but the levels of the tarot is absolutely wonderful. But sometimes you just need someone to go, no, don't do that. Don't you?
It's true with tarot, because of being an empath. I'm very concerned with my clients' emotions, and I'm weaving in and out of them. With Lenormand, it's just a direct line, and all this weave. There's none of that. It's very direct, and I'm finding out that it's. I'm trying to understand what this is. I was over on Bobby's channel. Here I am.
I think he was, or she was, on my channel, and the conversation.
Oh, I see. Channel hopper. So, Ritchie, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you. Stick around backstage, because we're going to chit chat and set something up. All right. You guys, I want to thank you all for watching, and please be advised that later on today, I'm going to be going live myself. Ritchie, do you have anything coming up?
Yeah, I have. Well, I always do my lives on a Friday UK evening time. So about 6-7 o'clock Friday evening, which is Eastern time, about 5 hours. I have no idea what it is where you are there, but it's probably about this time on a Friday, to be honest with you. And I have this week Chris from Elemental Cartomancy on, and we were talking about Greek myths earlier and Greek pantheons. We're getting our Greek decks out and talking about our favorite Greek myths. So
I've got my coming up. Deck. I'll play along at home. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So that's what we got. And and then we've got some stuff coming up with Gerald. We've got some readings coming up. It's Mabon season.
Gerald is Tarot Stash for those.
Yeah. So Long Stash will be coming up in a week or so's time, in a couple of weeks for the equinox. So if you fancy some readings, you know what to do.
Absolutely, I will log in. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one, okay? Bye.